Old English, an introductory overview. This is a text in Old English, or Anglo-Saxon. This is the exact same text that we looked at last week in Gothic, that is, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 11 and following. Here's the Gothic text again. And obviously I chose the same text so that you could compare and contrast the two languages. And I began this investigation of the older Germanic languages with Gothic, because as I said last week, Gothic is the oldest one that we know. This text that you're looking at again right now is an actual 4th century product. I move now to Old English because in a certain sense it's the, might be said to be sort of the second oldest Germanic language, in that it has a start date generally given about the year 450 in the mid-5th century. Not that we have any texts from that period per se, but it's at that point that the language migrated to England from the continent, separated from the sort of continental stock of Proto-Germanic, and began a separate development on the island. And it's really from the about the year 700, so in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th centuries, that Old English is a flourishing literary language. And I could have chosen a lot of other texts, but as I said, I chose this one for comparative and contrastive purposes. How would you know that this is Old English? If you were just to look at this, I think you might remember from all the series that we've done, this looks a lot like Icelandic more than any other language that we've looked at. But if you do a closer examination, what might you see? It's got all the same character set as Icelandic for the most part, but in the first place, you would find that whereas in Icelandic the thorn and the eth are determined by position, here you can find the thorn in final position and the eth in initial position. And that's just not something you would find in Icelandic. Likewise, Icelandic marks the long vowels with an acute accent, whereas in Old English they're marked with a macron from Latin. So that's how you would distinguish this from Icelandic. Now, what might this have sounded like? Again, with all this older languages, nobody knows because we don't have any recordings, but you can do some intelligent guesswork based on comparative phonology and internal evidence. One thing about these older languages, to the extent that they were not standardized, people really wrote as they spoke, so you can look for what's called internal consistency, but in the end it's always just an intelligent, educated guess. I have no idea what this might really have sounded like, but from reading phonetic introductions and just having a feel for older Germanic languages, I will read it for you like this. Sothliche summon hefta tveichen sunna. Tha kveith se yngre to his feder. Feder, seleme mine del minre echte, Fe med tåge bureth. Tha dele he him his ehte. Tha efter fjauum dagum eal his finger garderode se yngre sunu. Und ferde regliche on fjorlen riche. Und forspirede there his ehte. Libende on his jelsen. Tha he hier hefte eala am jerede. Tha werth mitchell hunger on them riche, und he werth wedla. Tha ferde he, und folgede, anum burg sittendum men thes riches. Tha sende he hinne to his tune, fed he heolde his svin. Tha gewilnode he his wamba gefulen, of them bien kodum the tha svin ehton, und himmon neselde. Tha bethote he hinne, und kvef i alla huvele hjertlinga, und mines feder huse lav genoha habath, und ik her und hungre for viorve. Ik arise, und ik fara to minum feder, und ik segge hem, Jala, feder, ik syngode on Hiofanas, und beforen thee. Nu ik neomwerthe, that ik bio thin sunu nemnet, do me swa ane of thinem hjertlingum. I will translate from where I left off with the Gothic text. As I said, it's the same text. I think it was about here. Va ferde, then traveled he, und folgede, and followed or joined, einem burgsittendem men, all dative case, one of the town-sitting men, so a town dweller, a wealthy man, thes riches, of that country. Tha sende he hinne, then sent he him, then he sent him, to his tuna, to his meadow or farm or fields, that he holde, that he might hold or keep his swine, his swine, his pigs. Tha gewilnode he his wamba gefühlen, then wanted he his womb, his stomach, gefühlen, to fill, of them beankudum, of those bean curds or cods or husks, the tha swine eten, that those pigs ate, und him mon neselde, and to him nobody not gave. So he wanted to eat his full of the husks that the pig ate, but nobody gave him any. Tha bethought he hinne, then bethought he himself, then he thought to himself, und kvev, and said, Jala, hu fele eertlinge, alas, how many servants or workers, on mines federhusse, in or on my father's house, klaaf, loaves, bread, genoeg habeth, bread enough have. Und ik her, and I hear, on hungre for weortha, in hunger or of hunger for weortha, for away weortha, to be. So I go away, I perish. Ik arise, I will arise, und ik fare, and I will go, to meinem vader, to my father, und ich zegge him, and I say to him, Jala vader, alas father, ik sungode, I sinned, on hilfenas, in heaven or against heaven, und beforen thee, and before thee, nu ik neom werthe, now I not am worthy, that ik biu, that I be, that I may be, thin sunu nemned, that I may be called your son. I'm not worthy to be your son. Do me swa, make me so, Anna of thinem eertlingum, one of thy workers, one of thy servants. If you're interested in learning Old English, it's one language where the easiest thing for you to buy, Mark Atherton's Old English and the Teach Yourself series, is really an excellent place to begin. This is a marvelous book that is more of an overview of the culture and the civilization as well. And it comes with 2 CDs that give you, I guess, him and some lady reading Old English, and they're very nice to listen to. They're very aesthetic, but I'm not sure that they're very good. It's hard to differentiate their modern English and their Old English when they're reading it, but that's something else that you could listen to. If you want something that's a bit more thorough and actually training you in the language, the older Teach Yourself, Leslie Blakely's, was very good. And then there's the whole series in the older Oxford publications of Write and Sweet is the big name. Sweet's Anglo-Saxon Primer and Grammar and Reader are what you would want to turn to for Old English.